I grew up in a house where the walls seemed to lean in, whispering secrets of a man who wasn't there. My father. He left when I was 3. A ghost story told in fading Polaroids in a half-empty closet. My mother, Marie, didn't just raise me. She curated me. In our small Midwestern town, she was the planner of my reality. Every meal was a lesson in tradition. Every Sunday was a testament to her sacrifice. I was her miracle boy, the one who stayed when the world walked out. I loved her with a ferocity that was rooted in guilt. I saw the calluses on her hands from 30 years at the textile mill. I saw the way she skipped dinners so I could have new cleats for soccer. But that kind of love is a tether. It's an anchor that keeps you safe in a storm, but it also keeps you from ever reaching the open sea. Then came Sarah. I remember the first time I saw her in the university's environmental lab. She was arguing with a professor about carbon sequestration, her hands moving like she was trying to reshape the air itself. She was vibrant, ambitious, and she didn't have a single quiet bone in her body. When she looked at me, she didn't see a miracle boy to be protected. She saw a partner to be challenged. When we married, the wedding felt like a heist. I felt like I was stealing my own life back. But as we stood in that sun-drenched clearing, I looked at my mother. She was wearing a dress the color of a bruised plum, her lips thin, her eyes tracking Sarah's every move. I realized then that I hadn't escaped the anchor. I had just dragged it into deeper water. The first few months in our city apartment were a dream of independence. Sarah and I lived on espresso and ambition. We filled the space with reclaimed wood furniture and enough hanging vines to make it look like a jungle. It was ours. Then the Tuesday of the lavender discovery happened. I walked through the door after a grueling 10-hour shift at the firm. I expected to smell Sarah's spicy ginger candles or the faint scent of rain from the open window. Instead, the air hit me like a physical blow. Artificial lavender, the exact scent of the industrial-strength softener my mother used in our basement back home. My heart began a frantic, uneven rhythm. I walked into the bedroom. Sarah was standing perfectly still by the dresser. She didn't turn around. She was staring at a stack of my t-shirts. "Eliam," she said, her voice so calm it was terrifying. "Did you give her a key?" "Who, Mom?" "No, of course not," I said, my voice sounding thin even to me. "Then how did she get in here to fold your underwear into triangles?" Sarah turned around. Her eyes were red-rimmed. "She didn't just clean, Eliam. She fixed the house. She moved my research papers into the storage bin under the bed. She replaced our coffee with decaf because she thinks it makes you jittery." She was here for hours, in our bedroom, while we were at work. I felt the room shrinking. I looked at those perfectly folded shirts, and I didn't see a kind gesture. I saw a flag planted in the middle of my marriage. I tried to defend her, to talk about her loneliness, her way of showing love. But Sarah cut me off. "If you don't get that key back," she whispered, "you can go back to the house where the laundry smells like lavender, because I won't live in a museum dedicated to your mother." The tension followed me into the one place I thought was mine, my career. I was presenting a multi-million-dollar sustainability project to a board of directors. These were the titans of the industry. I had practiced my speech for weeks. I was 5 minutes into my slide deck, talking about the structural integrity of recycled steel, when the heavy oak doors of the boardroom creaked open. I froze. My mother walked in, carrying a plastic grocery bag. She looked small in that massive room, but the power she radiated was immense. "Ilium, honey, I know you're in a meeting, but you forgot your thermos. You know how you get that scratchy throat when you talk too much?" she said, walking right up to the head of the table. The CEO, a man who didn't even smile for his own children, just stared at her. "Mom, please, not now," I hissed, my face burning with a heat I thought would melt my collar. "Oh, don't mind me," she said to the board, a sweet, grandmotherly smile on her face. "I'm just the mother. I'm the one who makes sure he remembers to eat while his wife is off in another state, saving the world." The humiliation wasn't just about the thermos. It was the calculated strike at Sarah. In front of my peers, she had labeled me as a child and my wife as an absentee. I didn't finish the presentation. I couldn't. The miracle boy had returned, and the professional man had vanished. I thought I could fix it with a meal. It was a classic peacemaker move and a classic mistake. I spent 8 hours in the kitchen trying to create a menu that was a bridge. I made the pot roast my mother had made for every one of my birthdays, salty, tender, and heavy. And I made a vibrant, spicy vegetable tagine for Sarah, bright, complex, and bold. When we sat down, the table felt like it was divided by a high-voltage fence. "It's very colorful," my mother said, looking at Sarah's dish as if it were a plate of radioactive waste. "But Eliam has a delicate stomach. He was always a sensitive boy. He needs grounded food, root vegetables, tradition." "He's 30 years old, Marie," Sarah said, her voice steady but sharp as a razor. "His stomach is fine. It's his backbone that seems to be the problem lately." My mother's eyes welled up instantly. It was her greatest weapon, the silent, shimmering tear. "I see. I'm the problem now. After 30 years of being the only person in the world who didn't walk out on him, I'm the burden." "Stop it, Mom," I said, but it was too late. "Back home, Agatha's son's wife knows how to honor a mother," Marie continued, her voice rising. "She doesn't treat family like a distraction from a paycheck. She knows that a man's home is his sanctuary, not a place where he's told his mother isn't welcome." "This isn't his home," Sarah shouted, slamming her hand on the table. "This is our home. And if you can't respect the woman he chose, then you aren't honoring him. You're just trying to own him." Sarah walked out. The front door didn't just close. It shook the frame of the building. I was left alone with my mother and 2 plates of food that tasted like ash. The next 3 days were a blur of silence. Sarah stayed with a friend. My mother sent 20 texts a day, all of them variations of, "I just want what's best for you." I spent those days walking the city streets. I realized that for my entire life, I had been trying to build 2 separate houses on the same piece of land. I had been trying to keep my mother's miracle boy alive while trying to let Sarah's partner grow. I met my mother in the park on Friday. No food, no distractions. "I need the key, Mom," I said. She started to cry. The loud sobbing cry this time. "You're choosing her after everything I did? You're throwing your mother away for a girl who's never even cooked you a Sunday roast?" "I'm not throwing you away," I said, and for the first time I didn't feel the urge to apologize. "But I am closing the door. You don't live in my marriage, Mom. You don't get to vote on how we spend our time or how we fold our clothes. If you want to be in my life, you have to be a guest. And guests knock, guests ask, and guests respect the hostess." She looked at me like she didn't recognize me. The miracle boy was gone. "If I do that," she whispered, "I'll be alone." "No," I said, taking her hand. "If you do that, you'll have a son who actually wants to see you, instead of a son who is afraid to answer the phone." It took years of negotiated peace. There were awkward holidays and silent car rides. There were times Sarah wanted to give up, and times my mother almost reverted to her old ways. But we did the work. Last night, I stood on the porch of our new house, the one we bought together, with a lock my mother doesn't have a key to. Through the window, I watched them. My mother was sitting in the rocking chair, holding our 6-month-old daughter. She was humming a song I remembered from my own childhood. Sarah was sitting on the sofa, a laptop on her knees, but she was looking at them with a soft, guarded smile. Marie looked up and saw Sarah watching. She didn't make a comment about the laptop. She just said, "She has her mother's eyes, doesn't she?" And Sarah nodded. "In your stubbornness, Marie." They both laughed. It wasn't a perfect harmony, but it was a melody we could all live with. I walked inside, moving between their 2 worlds, realizing that the geography of my heart had finally found its true north. I wasn't the invisible glue anymore. I was the man who had built a house strong enough to hold them both. True love is not the absence of boundaries, but the presence of respect. We do not honor our parents by remaining children, nor do we honor our partners by erasing our past. We honor both by standing as the architects of our own lives, proving that a bridge can only hold weight if it is anchored firmly on its own side of the river.